welcome back to our channel, Doom Productions, home of the No Budget Film School, and we have another Filmmaker Hangout for you today.
Yeah.
Today we're going to sit down and talk with Mridul Chhibber, and who, if you didn't know, directed a movie called Last Day of Childhood. Check it out, the link will be in the description, there'll be a card right above. So check out his movie, and then come back here and check out this interview.
Yeah.
So, without further ado,
Enjoy.
Enjoy it.
Only if I'd known long ago, our choice will grow into another road. Only if I'd known long ago, spaces us two.
Here we are.
Mridul, thanks for hanging out.
Here we are.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I've been watching it for a while, and I admire you guys quite a bit as filmmakers, so it's an honor to be on the Doom Productions channel finally.
The feeling is very mutual.
Yeah.
We love your work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think the first time I saw, I think I didn't see Last Day of Childhood the first weekend it came out. I think I saw it a week or two later, because I think it was before Video Carnage, but I was prepping for it. And I was so blown away at just everything. And I know
Thank
that's
you,
broad,
wow.
but to me, Last Day of Childhood, that's like, I want to make a video on this, like an essay or some sort, but for me, I have like 3 tiers of cinema in terms of like, tier 3 is just kind of like story. Tier 2 is like story, but in a way that only film can do it. But then tier 3 is like pure cinema. Like if you took this thing cannot exist outside of movie making in cinema.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Last Day of Childhood is. I think it's like the first YouTube movie I've seen where it's like, oh, this can only happen in a movie. Like this would not exist outside of cinema. And I was so blown away. And it made me think of watching all the great experimental films I did in film school. So, I guess my question for you is, how'd you do it? Explain.
Explain yourself right now.
I feel like, so it all came from this idea of like having, so it started with watching Joel Haver's work, which like I'm a huge fan of course, and he has this film called 31 Days in Marshall, Carolina, or something like that. And I was like fascinated by this idea of like capturing a time and place, right? 31 days, and then you have a location, and it's like you can't recreate it. Someone else makes that film. Like it's like, what are you doing, man? It's already been done, right? So I was like fascinated, like what's like an idea like that where like it's just like a time capsule kind of thing, but like also it's like everyone has gone through this thing, and I was prepping on a movie, and while I was prepping for it, I got this idea for The Last Day of Childhood. I just wrote it down as like this random idea, and then it became my first feature. And basically the idea was to I was going to get my driver's license that day. So the idea was that I'll get my driver's license, we'll go to my, the suburb that I was kind of brought up with, and we'll talk about my memories and all that, flashbacking to video footage. But plot twist, I did not get the license. And it was quite it was heartbreaking because I had this whole documentary relying on it, and I wanted my driver's license. So I recorded it anyways, because for me filming myself has always been this catharsis kind of thing where I feel a lot better. It's kind of a distraction almost from what I'm feeling, which is maybe unhealthy, but whatever. And then we filmed the whole day, and then I was just like, what can I do with this? And then I love the idea of having kind of 2 parts of a story that unravels. So I kind of started thinking of it in that way of if this was a feature film, what would be the second half? What can I do that contrasts with that first half? And I'm like, what's stopping me from just living that day, right? So that's pretty much what happened, right? Yeah.
So when you were going through and playing, I'm assuming, but at the same time, I just feel like I have to ask this. It's not scripted in any way, right? Or were there scenes that were did you have an idea going of like, I want to cover these things in this scene, and then you shot them?
So basically, yeah, sometimes I would I would edit from the footage, and especially with that first day, because I didn't know this was going to be anything. So there were like moments where I had to like fill in spots. But the second day was like all pretty much in my mind of what I wanted it to be. But there's moments in the first day where I'm like, okay, we need this beat. The audience needs to know this information. For example, like the first cut of it, you couldn't even tell that I was going on a driver's license or anything.
Yeah.
So like there's like a control of information that I had to kind of go through while editing it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
And where did the editing style come from? Because it's like, I don't want anyone to think like this isn't a boring movie. Like when you describe it to someone, they might think, oh, just a guy filming himself through his day. That could be kind of boring. But like, it's exciting. Like it's really engaging. And the editing style, there's a lot of
punches you in the face.
there's glitches, there's color changes, there's zooms. There's a lot of great editing choices that really keep you hooked throughout the movie in a way, again, in a way that you couldn't do that in a painting or in a book or in music or anything. Like it could only exist in cinema. So where did that come from?
I guess it is like a part of my natural kind of style. I did work as an editor for like a bunch of years. So I've edited heaps of YouTube videos, and being in that YouTube space, you kind of just do whatever you can and see if it works. So I kind of brought that same kind of approach where I wanted to try out new things to the film. But also, I guess it is my style. There's like a saying that, editing shouldn't be noticed. And I honestly completely disagree with that. When I notice editing and I see that it's purposeful, beautiful, and, someone who's not a filmmaker would watch the same thing, but they wouldn't notice it. But when I watch it and I just fall in love with the editing, it's like such an amazing like experience for me, because you're using like cinema, sound, and like, visuals to convey as much information like as you possibly can, in delivering this like emotional experience. And I find that so fascinating. So to me as an editor, I'm always thinking about what do I want the viewer to feel, and I feel like you gotta control every like colors, all of that stuff. Wait, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the control of everything, and conveying that experience is kind of what motivated that. And also, I watched a film called Run Lola Run, which I fell in love with while editing it, so that may have also influenced me a little. So yeah.
I mean, what experience do you have? So you saw Run Lola Run. What other movies influenced you specifically on last day of childhood?
I think, honestly, like the only two major influences that I had were 31 Days, Joel Haver's film, and Run Lola Run. Run Lola Run also has the idea of like time being repeated, and that also like just brought in my mind that, I can just like restart this day, and that could create something. Because I love contrast in like narrative, like, because I feel like contrast is the best way to make a point, really. So like, for example, you may have a character that's like good or like a character that's bad, and you see this in every superhero movie these days, where you have the hero and the villain, and the audience is rooting for one of them, and that's kind of the moral figure for the audience. So kind of like that, like contrast is just very useful to make a point, I think. So yeah, those two films are honestly the only influences. A lot of reviewers and like you guys even have like talked about all these experimental films that I have to watch now, but yeah, they're on my watch list.
Yeah, because I think you would really, I'm assuming you like your own movie and that editing style, so I think you would really love some of the old school like experimental filmmakers. So like Sadie Benning, George Kuchar, Stan Brakhage, of course, is like the king. I think those are like three people I think you would love, because, I mean, it's experimental cinema, so it's like, It's going to be right up your alley. Have you heard of any of those? Are there any experimental film kind of filmmakers or films that you've seen that influenced you at all, just in general?
Only after the movie, to be honest. Like after I released the movie, a lot of people kind of talked to like I discovered a lot of new experimental cinema because other people recommended it to me, compared my work to it, and I checked it out, and it's totally up my alley, I guess. And I wish I had watched it beforehand, maybe, to an extent. But also, I feel like there's something special about like being ignorant and doing something, because you kind of like if I had watched a bunch of these experimental films like that, I may have kind of limited my ideas of what I could possibly do, and like I feel like ignorance is kind of really good in some areas like that. But I'm glad that I'm discovering them now, and I just have this thing where I talk to like. I would love to see a movie by someone who hasn't made a movie. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah, I want to see that. Someone, if you're watching this interview and you haven't seen a movie, please make a movie. I really want to see it. But yeah. Also, watch The Last Day of Childhood. It was pretty good.
This interview and...
Yeah.
So, now that you've made Last Days of Hollywood. We were talking about
Quentin
Bollywood
Tarantino
before this, so that no. Now that you've made Last Day of Childhood, what kind of stuff do you think about? Because now you've kind of made that first thing. What are you thinking about in terms of what's next for you? Like, are there things you're like, oh, I would do this differently? Or are there things you want to bring and evolve with you? Like, what's kind of going through your mind?
Yeah, I feel like my style is something that is gonna like shift rapidly with all of my films. I want my editing to be visible, but I want to be invisible as a filmmaker, I guess. So each film, I have very like different ideas. I don't like really want to stick to a certain genre. So, I want to keep on like, I still have that thing where I want to push kind of the limits of what the audience is expecting with the editing, but do it in a different way with each feature film. And I have 7 feature film ideas right now, which can be a bit tough to juggle, but we're going through it.
Yeah. What's your favorite part in the filmmaking process? Then I think would be an interesting thing to hear from you.
Wow. So probably editing.
Yeah.
Which you can probably tell.
Yep, that's fair.
But yeah. I used to hate writing, but that's because I was never really. Literally, last time we I interviewed you guys, I would say like from then to now, just in a few weeks, like my writing process has improved so much, and I actually enjoy it a lot more now, and I'm slowly beginning to enjoy all of the parts, but it's editing is, I love editing.
Yeah.
You and I have gone through the same journey in about the same span of time then, because I'm in a similar position now where I've found writing to be a lot more fun than I've ever had before. It used to be like the worst part for me. Now it's like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Yeah. It's crazy because it's like based on the advice that like everyone gives of like, oh yeah, don't worry about it being perfect on the first draft and stuff. But I just like kind of took it to the extreme. With my next film, I literally like had a process in which I would just like set a timer, and in that one day I would have to like complete the first half of the film. Somehow I had to like write the whole first half of the movie in that one day, and then the next few days I'll like rewrite the first half, and then I'll give myself another day to just write the first like vomit draft of the second half, and then I'll rewrite that. Like that's kind of my process now. As you guys might tell, I work in halves. Like that's my thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, working so fast, that's what I discovered too, is like giving yourself that time to like doubt yourself is like, that's what's going to kill your momentum the quickest. So like just get it done. Fast for me was writing a draft in about 15 days, which felt like breakneck speed. But also like I had to discover where was the best place for me to write. I discovered I couldn't write in my room like at all. That was like the worst place I could have ever written. So I just discovered like, okay, coffee shops, the most hipster thing I could do, being a writer at a coffee shop. It turns out like there's reasons why people do it, because it like totally clicked for me, because it's like, oh, I just bought this coffee like to be at this table. Like I paid money to be here, so I better like spend that $5 or whatever for this cup of coffee to like write $5 worth of a movie. And to me, it's like, all right, that's like 10 pages maybe or whatever. Like that seemed worth it. So like that incentive for some reason clicked for me well enough that I could like write. So
Where do you write
yeah.
when you do that?
So I either just I kind of can write anywhere.
You
to be honest.
monster.
Normally,
So he's like me.
the only thing is like I have to write like with my laptop. I can't write on my PC. Like I just am unable to.
Yeah.
Because on my like computer, it's like I'm either watching movies, doing homework. It's just like a different space. And on my laptop, it's like really bad. Like my laptop is terrible right now, and this is what like I'm using right now. And the keyboard doesn't, like the mouse doesn't work. So to exit like a tab is like so much effort. So I might as well just keep typing, you know? So like it's like really like bad, but it forces me to write, and it's like kind of my secret weapon. But sometimes I just love like just throwing like being in like the TV kind of area and just having a bunch of like movies that I'm inspired by, and then just writing and then chucking on a movie when I'm not feeling inspired, and just back and forth. That's what I've like, now I'm in lockdown, I can kind of have the time to do that. But that's been really awesome for me recently, actually.
Nice. Nice.
So the true secret is being locked down, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you see
Absolutely.
yourself making another movie like Last Days, another kind of experimental documentary, or do you think you've been there, done that, you want to do something new and different?
I have a few ideas in mind. In terms of Last Day of Childhood, I want to make a few films like that, just because it's fairly like it's not very intensive to like just record a day or like your life basically. And now that I've done it, I know how to like do it like properly for a film. So like there's gonna be like the last day of a century where like it's like a guy turning 100 years old. And there's gonna be the first day of childhood about a baby being born. There's gonna be all of those movies, trust me.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice.
And I have a sequel also written, which is like, yeah, it's gonna be like, it's basically, I have a sequel, guys. I won't reveal what it is
Yes.
about, but it's written. Yeah.
We almost got it out of him.
Yes. Almost.
So close.
Yeah. And so speaking more generally, what movies are you inspired by? What influenced you, do you think, the most?
Yeah. Very much inspired by, wow, this is kind of a difficult question. I love, recently I've been on a Sam Raimi Spider-Man thing where I've just been thinking about his films a lot. So like that, like if there was any like group of films that inspired me to be a filmmaker, that's definitely it. I literally remember like the day that my dad and my grandfather like brought home the 3-disc set of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, and like that like changed my life. Like if they hadn't randomly done that, like I would be a totally different person. But besides that, I would say like my unique inspirations are probably like Bollywood, and the YouTube filmmaking space is also kind of a unique influence. Seeing what everybody's up to, seeing that like how like you can do stuff without a budget, it's always inspiring, you know. And it's like crazy to think about, like sometimes I'm watching a movie and I'm just like, I can do this shot, and it's so interesting because I've realized that to make a decent movie, you just have to have interesting stuff happening on screen leading to a larger point, you know? And interesting stuff isn't that expensive. Like, normally our lives are actually pretty interesting, and they're also relatable and all that stuff. Like, there was a movie I was watching yesterday, and there was a shot of like someone in the middle of the street, and he was like standing on a box, and he was just like talking to random people. I'm like, I can do this, you know? So just like stuff like that, you know, like is kind of grasping at everything you can possibly do and just taking advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So when you look at the YouTube filmmaking space, like, are there any like great movies you've discovered through that? Like, what are some of your like, oh my gosh, this is something people need to see?
Yeah, so the kind of way I was brought into the community was Joel Haver's work. I've mentioned him like maybe too many times during this interview already.
Not
But,
enough.
No, not a problem.
So yeah, I basically like I hardly actually watched any of his stuff, but then I randomly asked him like a year and a bit ago that can I interview you? Because it was just like good clickbait to have like, oh, I made 140 short films in a year. So I was like, bro, I can interview this guy. And then I was like, can I interview you? And he said yes. I'm like, okay, I have to do research. So I watched all of his movies and I was surprised because I really liked them. And while watching them, I discovered this whole community. And then Pretend That You Love Me hadn't released. He was actually talking about him working on it during the interview. And that movie is something special to me, man. Like, I can't even describe my love for that movie. To me, like, that is the first masterpiece and only masterpiece right now in the kind of movement. But other than that, Doom Productions, really inspiring work. I love Halloween. I feel like your guys' films have like grown on me. Because they leave an impression, I guess. So Halloween, I really like. House, I really like. Pretty much all of your films, I really love. And Dan Lotz, all of the big people. I have a friend who lives in Sydney, and he makes folk like films as well. And just like being part of this community where like it's expected, like it's like, oh, what feature are you working on? Isn't that crazy that like we're just like a group of people and we're just like, oh yeah, you working on any new feature films? And like I'm in film school, right? And the kids in my film school, like they think I'm like absolutely insane for like making feature films with no budget.
Good.
I love it. Like every like class I come in and I'm like pitching my idea to someone. I'm like, oh, and this happens and this happens, and then there's this character, and then he's like, how are you like thinking about this? Like I feel like the YouTube kind of community has inspired me, because a lot of filmmakers have a thing where they just like don't believe that they can make a feature film, and it's like kind of a limitation that's like kind of fake, like I feel like anyone can make a feature film, and it's like opened my mind in that way.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that thing. You're in film school still. Mm-hmm. I think everyone we've talked to in this YouTube folk filmmaker movement, I think they've all either not gone to film school or they've already gone to film school, and that's years behind them. That's how it was for me. You are in film school, so what is that experience like, knowing that like there is a kind of because in America, anyways, I don't know how the film industry is in Australia. In America, there's a very competitive mentality. There's a lot of things, film school. In many ways, it's a lot of do this, don't do this. And YouTube filmmaking, in a way, defies all those rules. So what is it like for you being a successful YouTube filmmaker, making feature films, but you're in school to make movies? What is that like for you?
I guess it's frustrating at times because I feel like they're not training us to be filmmakers, and they're training us instead to be assistants. Like I have that feeling like big time, especially with certain like lecturers. They have this bitterness of they didn't make it in the industry and whatever, that whole complex, and it's quite annoying because they really like discourage people from trying out new things, experimenting, and like it's kind of like heartbreaking in that way, where I see so many kids and like they want to make movies and all of that, but they've just like been brainwashed to believe that they can't, and some of them it's cool because I'm inspiring them to make stuff, but then sometimes it's just like it's just like a bit annoying as well. And the way that they film stuff is like very traditional, and it just doesn't make sense to me that like to film in a way that's traditional if you don't have the the means and budget of like a traditional studio. Like why would you film in a way that requires that extra budget, So they don't like, yeah, I have a lot of gripes with it, but overall, like, it's, yeah, I haven't decided whether it's really like a worthwhile experience yet, but yeah, it's something, you know.
That sounds pretty similar to my experience, because I remember, I think I told you about this,
Yeah.
but there was I helped out with some classmates on a project of theirs. It was a little project, but it was a tiny, tiny little scene that if we had shot, we would have done it in an hour or so. But because we
Dude,
were
I
learning,
feel this.
but because we were
Dude,
doing it the
yeah.
traditional way, it literally took
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 hours, right? Because we had to get the
Yeah.
camera, we had to make sure all the lighting was perfect. We had to get the mics, we had to get room to like all this stuff, and which is cool. Like it's fun when you don't.
Yeah.
If you need to learn how to do it, it's totally a valid way. I'm not knocking it at all. But for people like us who are very like self-motivated and self-determined to do stuff on our own, knowing that like, hey, we don't have all this equipment. Why should we learn it this way when we don't have the means to do it, when it's quicker and better if we just pull out a camera and we just shoot it like this and do it in an hour or so. So I totally feel
Yeah.
that exact same thing
Yeah.
that you do.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, because it's also like people don't have the edit in mind when they're filming, and that's like a huge thing where they get coverage of every single angle and they record the whole thing. And I'm just like you could do this in like 5 times the speed if you just like think about how you're gonna edit it, and it's yeah.
No, when I was
I don't want to become too rambly, but
yeah, when I was in, I didn't do film school, but I did take film classes, and one of them was an acting course, and so we would audition to be in film students acting. So like the classes would kind of merge at a certain point, and we'd be the actors in the director's movies. And I was in a project where the director and the cinematographer were constantly arguing because they never met and talked about what the vision of the scene was going to be. They would figure that out as they were shooting it and setting up for like each scene, and it got to the point where they had like this shot where like an urn gets smashed, and they had 2 urns. So we do one scene, it's in a wide, and we smash it, and we run through the whole scene. It turns out fine. The director really wanted a slow motion take of the urn smashing, and the cinematographer didn't know this, and they argued for 30 minutes. They wanted it to be at the certain lighting of sunset. They argued past that point because they had no like decision making, and it's like, guys, you should have just did it real quick and we would have moved on. And it was so frustrating to be stuck in that, like, you're just waiting.
Yeah.
And like as an actor and as like someone who had experience, we hadn't made features, but we've made pretty big shorts. It's like,
Yeah.
I know what you guys could do, but I'm not gonna. That's not my place, because there's the right way that they're trying to do it. So it's like, okay, you don't want to hear from an actor, but it's like, it was just kind of, it's sad in a way. Like I know that they're trying to do things in the industry, like we kind of said, but it can be kind of just,
If you've listened to us, you know that we're not like anti-Hollywood or anti-film school. Just for us, it didn't work out so much, or we didn't always agree. But I had some really valuable experiences, and I am glad ultimately that I did go to film school. And I think I wish there was more things that I wish I would have done. For you, what have been the main positives out of going to film school?
the main positives. Wow, I'm gonna have to think about this one.
Well, can I even?
It's
Yeah, I don't know. I was
Yeah,
even going to reframe the question of like, since you're not through film school yet, what have been some of the things? What are some of the things you're hoping to learn, and then what also like have you learned so far that you're like really happy about? I think that's a good point too.
Yeah. So I would like to like. I feel like at my film school, at least, the film studies element of it is very weak. We don't really look at like experimental cool stuff, or even like if I went up to like most of the people in my film school and I like asked them who Akira Kurosawa was, they wouldn't know. And like,
Oh,
you,
that's like one
He's
of the
like
big
the
guys.
top. He's
Yeah,
like the
That's
top
one
dog.
you
Exactly,
should know.
Oh my gosh!
exactly.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, so it's like that kind of demographic. So it's yeah. So I'm hoping to like get more into like the deep cuts and everything. And mostly I mainly went to film school to meet cool people. So I'm hoping to meet cool people that are like self-motivated, and cool people are just like I've I've realized that like this year, like cool people are just like so cool. Like they're like hard to find. They're like hard to find, and like when you find them, you gotta like treasure them, you know. So yeah, in terms of what I've learned, a lot of the stuff I have learned is seeing people on set and like not doing that well, and like I feel like it's kind of good as well because you get to be like, okay, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main thing I would say.
And how long is this program? And what year are you in it right now?
I'm in the first year, and it's 2 years.
2 years.
So
Okay, so you're halfway, give or take.
yeah, pretty much.
Will this culminate in a thesis film, or is it more like little projects? A bunch of those.
I think it's like more little projects, but you know, I'm gonna make films anyway, so it's fine, you know.
Nice.
You should submit a feature at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you, I mean, this might be. Gee, I'm trying to think of what I would have liked. So, because my experience with film school was, I went to film school because I wanted the degree, and I was kind of in there. And by the time I was in there, we had been doing a whole lot of projects. So I felt like, I kind of stuck with our crew, our friends who were making movies, and I didn't really network or anything, or learn a whole. I mean, of course, I learned a lot about production, doing stuff, but I learned a lot more. I felt like on the film studies side, and so one of my favorite things about going to film school was like discovering new movies I wouldn't have learned otherwise. Like some of my all-time favorite movies, I learned from a film class. I would be forced to watch this movie, and I would like, and when you think going to school to watch movies would be amazing, but sometimes it's a real drag. It's really boring, and you're like, oh my gosh, this movie's 4 hours long, but I have to watch it so I can write a paper on it. And so I get through that. I write my stupid paper, and I'm like, I hate that movie. I'm never gonna talk about it again. And then a month goes by, and you're like, you know what? That movie was a masterpiece. I can't stop thinking about it. And it's so funny, that kind of like the film study aspect of film school, which I think is really just as useful, if not more useful, than the practical kind of on-set experience. What's something that, I mean, you said that you want to get more into the study of the deep cuts of cinema. What's your, is there a deep cut that you have seen, something that's like totally unique to you, like something like more people need to see this movie, or they should teach this in film class?
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Let me pull up my letterbox.
Do it.
Yeah.
What is your letterbox so
Okay.
people can follow you?
It's MC Talking Films. But I think if you type in my name, it'll come up. Okay, Okay, I think I can give a unique one to me. There's this South Indian film which is called Sairat, which is translated to The Wild, and it's a really like it's like the contrast in the film, like where it's like all about like subverting the kind of traditional romance narrative, and it like kind of is a political kind of message at the end. And I think that movie is like amazing, and it's like really on the scene. And by the way, like it's not in a language that I speak either, so I'm watching it with subtitles as well, and it like completely connects to me.
How do you spell the? I'm gonna add it to my letterbox right now.
SAI
I
RAT.
RAT. 2016. Okay,
Yeah.
in my watch list right now.
It's like it's a very like it's a pretty
170
indie film.
minutes.
The-
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, I love long movies.
Yeah, so the director, he basically started with like with like the littlest resources, like especially in like India. So it's very inspiring to see what he can do, and it's literally a movie that I could make if I was in South India, I guess. But yeah, it's just like a really cool, amazing, like epic romance. Like it has intermission, everything I love, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah. And so, what else? I mean, because we talked a bit about this pre-recording. What are some other Bollywood movies and Indian movies that you'd recommend to folks?
Yeah. Ooh. I honestly like still have to like do more of a deep dive in Bollywood. Like I feel like I don't know the classics that well and all that stuff. But yeah, it's kind of hard to like. Again, I'm just gonna keep on using my letterbox. I'm sorry if this is not
fine.
interesting to watch me pull up.
I feel like by this point, it's like
Okay.
letterbox is like the new trading cards or like Pokemon cards or baseball cards for like filmmakers. Because it's like you pull out your letterbox, you're like, have you seen this one yet? Have you seen? And it's just swapping and trading movie recommendations.
Yeah, it's amazing. Oh yeah, so there's this. Oh my god, how could I not? Okay, so there's this two films. It's kind of like the Kill Bill situation where they were trying to make one film, but it was just so long that they had to split it in two. And it's called Gangs of Wasseypur. And it's directed by this dude called Anurag Kashyap. And this guy, this is like the complete opposite of what you pretty much know to be like the Bollywood kind of thing. It's like Martin Scorsese, gritty Indian gangster, Kill Bill, Quentin Tarantino. It's amazing. It's like two parts. Me and my dad really bond over it actually. So it's just like it has songs and everything, but it does it in a way that's like really cool. Did you
Yes,
find it?
it's.
Each part is 160 minutes.
I know we gotta watch that, so we just sit
Jeez.
down and marathon
Yeah.
them all.
I would highly recommend watching it in like one sitting.
Okay.
Like
Even
it's
better.
it's like an experience, you know? Like it's like a familial generation kind of story
Yes.
of how violence translates, and like it's a revenge tale, but it's over generations, spanning like 100 years or whatever.
That's awesome.
It's like it's mind-blowing stuff. And like it's also Martin Scorsese loves the movie. He gave like a handwritten note to the director. It's one of his favorite movies, and it's just mind-blowing. Like yeah, like I don't even have words.
That's awesome.
Like
man.
so inspiring. And the guy works outside of the Bollywood system, so once again, independent, pretty much. Like not as independent as us, but comparatively, to make like an epic like that on the budget that he did was quite impressive.
Yeah.
So,
Man, that's so cool.
That's exciting. Do you see yourself? This is a really niche conversation. We've talked with guys like Caleb Robinson from RC Films, and he loves long movies. And I enjoy watching long movies. I'm not sure if I'm quite there yet to make a long movie. Do you have an opinion on runtime with your own movies? Are you like, I want you guys to sit through this epic, or do you want people to be like just in and out really quick? I mean, what's a perfect runtime for you, if there is such a thing?
yeah, I don't really think that there is like a perfect runtime or anything. Like I feel like every movie, every story deserves its own thing. My movies, like right now, they're like an hourish. Like in terms of what I'm writing as well, which is surprising because most of them they're like two movies in one, so it's like two short films. But like I guess I like that like fast pace, especially like it's just something I enjoy. But I love watching longer movies. Like I love it, like just having like a event of watching a movie, just consuming half of your day, and you're like, oh my god, do I have a life? Like all that stuff, right? Like it's amazing. And yeah, I'll eventually do bigger stuff. But right now I just don't have that story idea. But
Yeah.
eventually, you know.
Yeah. So.
How about you guys? What?
Oh.
Ooh.
Turn it on.
Turn
us.
it, the reverse
Jeez.
Uno card right
Wasn't
there.
ready for it.
Well, I've already said we love watching long movies. I mean,
It's
we
like-
we will sit down and we'll watch all of Lord of the Rings, all
like a-
three, in The Hobbit and stuff,
That's like a day.
or like the Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice
Or
League,
like Justice League, watch it 5 times.
or like Seven Samurai.
Shoot.
Like we'll
Yeah.
sit down and we'll just watch, and those are great.
Yeah.
We love watching those. In terms of making them, I mean, I feel kind of similar to you. I think it kind of depends on the story. And right now, none of the stories, except Video Carnage, have really needed to be really long. Although I am salivating at the idea of someone making a YouTube movie that's like 3 or 4 hours long.
Yeah. We joke.
Yeah, I have a friend that's making a 4-hour movie right now. Like he has a 4-hour 5-minute cut of it. It's gonna be
awesome.
the longest folk film. But yeah, I'm really excited for that to release. It's like I think it's releasing on Christmas.
Yes.
So like he wants to torture everyone and be like,
It's a
yes,
gift.
watch a 4-hour movie on Christmas and like don't have a Christmas, like basically.
Yeah.
Shoot,
So
well, we're making plans.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I mean, and how I
yeah.
love long movies. I love like 90-minute like quick movies. It just I think it depends too. Like I think that's the beauty of editing is like you can make a 90-minute movie feel like 3 hours if
Yeah.
you edit it correctly. That's kind of the mindset I'm in right now for my next movie, which we used to joke like, oh, what if this movie was 3 hours long, 4 hours long? Like it could be. Is that the script I wrote is fairly lean though, so it's like, oh well, how's that going to pan out? I think we're still waiting to see really once it's shot, but like the idea of making a long movie is really exciting. But like,
Yeah.
it just again, that's like the fun of editing is like you can do that, you can shape how time moves to your audience and make it feel like 90 minutes is 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's one of the coolest things. Like, yeah, so I think I fall in the
Yeah.
boat of there is no perfect time. That's I guess how I got.
Yeah. I think my next film is gonna be kind of similar, where like it feels like a lot has happened, and I could make it like really long. Like I'd make it like 3 hours, but I don't know. I feel like the faster kind of pace works for what it's going for, because it's kind of like it's almost a superhero movie. I feel like I'm just like throwing out random words of like describing this movie, but it's like it has that kind of ordinary person starts doing this unordinary thing. Like it has that kind of element, and the second half is like totally different. It's like yeah. So like it's gonna feel very long, and I love when I watch like a 90-minute movie and it's like that was 90 minutes, like that just like blew my mind, and like I love that. So I'm just like trying to make movies that I would love. Like when I am writing or editing, I always just like imagine like a person that's pretty much exactly me, but doesn't have the life that I had. So like all my memories are out of the question, and it's just like I channel the movie for that one person, and hopefully it'll come out fine.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is there this is kind of getting out there, and maybe it's not like the project, but is there a dream project that you could see yourself making in the next few years? Not saying like this is like if I had $1 million and I could make anything I want. I mean like in the next foreseeable like future, couple years from now, is there one project you're working towards, or you just have your 7 ideas and you're just gonna try to make all those?
So, it's hard to say, because
If it's secret, you can keep it
feel like-
secret too.
no, it's not a secret. Like every film that I make is a dream project to me. Like it's like every film is like I literally like I am very, when I'm gonna be filming this next film, I'm gonna be like very nervous about it, because it's like a lot grander than anything that I've done before. And every film is like that, where I'm like, should I wait to make this? Like, should I make a few more films? I'm like, no. Like that's just my like instant like reaction, because I feel like I've lived a lot of my life based on fear, and I'm just like not letting that happen anymore. So like all of my projects to an extent are just like things that I'm like what if I made that movie? Like that would be amazing. But in terms of like when I sell out eventually, and Hollywood like snatches me up, as they will, I'll probably make a Planet of the Apes film. I'll make a Cleopatra biopic if Denis Villeneuve doesn't already. I'm watching him, and hopefully he doesn't do it before me. And then I'll make a Blade Runner 3. So that's the sellout trilogy.
Yes.
So, yeah.
No, I love it. I think I think every filmmaker has like, oh, if Hollywood hired me to do this, I would love to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're speaking my language. I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan. Like all of it. Like I grew up on. I had like the box set as a kid of like all the old ones, plus like the Mark Wahlberg one. Then when they relaunched it, I was like, sign me up. Like, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And, man, those movies were just.
My dad loves the Mark Wahlberg, like, Planet of the Apes one.
Nice.
And I've just
Good.
watched it so many times that I've just loved it as well.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, hey,
How about you guys? Like,
they're fun.
I don't think I've asked you. I don't think I asked you this, but like, do you guys have a dream project?
You go first, because I gotta think.
Well, in terms of, on several levels, yes and yes, because in the foreseeable future, yes. I think we talked about this recently. In like about 5 or 6 years, somewhere in there, there is a project that it's that story that, like, if I die tomorrow, that'll be my biggest regret, is not telling that story. And it's a doable project for us at our size, but we want to raise the money to make it right and do it properly, give it justice. So there is that project, and that's going to happen in the next few years. In terms of like Hollywood level, like a Hollywood IP, I would love to do a Superman movie series. I'd love to do like a Star Wars series, because I mean, I got Superman. If you watch any of our stuff, I have so many Superman shirts and like Justice League and stuff. And Star Wars too. I love Star Wars so much. So like I have like an idea for a trilogy of that.
Yeah.
But then in terms of like an IP, not an IP, in terms of like a big movie that I don't like, that's an original IP, I guess. There's a couple of like movies set in Cambodia that I'd love to do, about kind of like the history in there and my
Awesome.
family. But again, it's like those movies aren't super duper expensive. It's just, when you go internationally with like resources you don't have, that just costs a lot of money. So
Yeah.
yes, so I have a couple of different. There's like dream projects in the foreseeable future, but also like if someone came to me with a lot of money, or if like a studio came to me with like, hey, pick one of these properties. Yeah, there's definitely stuff I'd have in mind. Yeah.
No, I can't think. Like, it's
How
hard.
about
yeah.
you, Ethan? Yeah.
I have a hard time thinking of like specific IPs. I mean, Star Wars. I mean, Jordan and I are both huge Star Wars fans. So like,
Yeah.
anything in there would be a dream. Like, getting to make one, I'm happy. Get a trilogy, I'm terrified and also very excited. But other than that, I mean, I have like certain genres I'd love to work within. I would love to make a medieval movie at some point. So like The Green Knight's about to come out, and I'm just stoked that that's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, dude, I'm so excited.
I'm like a huge A24 fan, and that it's just that hits a chord somewhere within me that I don't know I had until they started making movies. It's like, oh my god,
Dude,
this is
it does to me as well. Like,
But other than that, I mean, I would love to tackle like biblical stories. I think that'd just be a fun. Like, I was a huge fan when Noah, that movie came out with Russell Crowe. Like,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's my jam. That is such
Yeah.
a cool movie. So I'd love to do stories within
Yeah.
that too. I think that'd be a neat niche, because I think Christian movies have just suffered. Like, they're rough. They're really
Yeah.
rough, man. God's not dead.
Yeah.
those like, that ain't it. Like, I want to do like crazy weird stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
want to. I mean, I made House, so
what are your thoughts on like what are your thoughts on Mel Gibson's
Passion?
like Passion of the Christ, or like Apocalypse?
the Passion of the Christ is incredible, and the fact that they're talking about making a sequel and that's going to be happening is exciting, especially once they said not all of the movie takes place on Earth. It's like, sign me up.
Yeah.
I don't need a trailer.
Yeah.
I don't need anything. Like, I'm there. Like, I'm watching that movie. So yeah, that kind of, like, I mean, that Bible stories have such a cool space to like get weird. And so it's
Yeah,
like, come on,
absolutely.
we've gotten our 10 Commandments, like old school, like those classics, but now it's like, all right, let's get weird, guys. Come on. There's plenty of space.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that would be fun space.
I really liked Passion of the Christ, and I like watched it like with like very like fresh eyes. And I also had like this whole like phase where I like kind of had like a deep dive into like religion, and like I watched it during then, and like it really like hit me, like the kind of visceral kind of element of it, like where you're just following like Jesus, and like it's just like you're going through all the suffering with him. It's like it's incredible stuff. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to whitewash that side, like those stories, and like make them all perfect and churchy. And it's like, no. Like, that's what I love about like Passion the most. It's like, all right, they get real. And then same thing with Noah is like, they take a small little story that's like 2 paragraphs in the Bible, and they like make it this crazy epic. And it's like, yeah, man, do more of that.
yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love like when the thing with like biblical and like mythological stories is like they have like the fact that they've survived like so many years. This shows like the power of them, and they have like because stories used to be this thing where it was like a parable kind of thing, right? Where like it has like a moral and all of that. And I was thinking about this yesterday. It's funny actually, and that kind of parable like element is like something I want like my films to really feel like as well. Like where it feels like it's like this, like when you're going through a situation, then you remember, oh yeah, this story, and then it kind of guides you and like helps you make a difficult decision or something like that, which I think like Christian stories or any kind of religious stories do a really good job at, where like if someone is like making a difficult decision, then they're like, okay, no, like Jesus made this harsh decision, he suffered through this, and you know, like that kind of I really like that kind of element.
Yeah. Well, I love like, and that's where I think the strength of like Star Wars comes in. Is like using archetype, where he's pulling from all cultures, like George Lucas, to make this like ultimate story. It's like there was the reason it resonates, and Star Wars is going to live long beyond any of us. Like that's going to be like one of the last pieces of cinema probably ever to die, because like it is so core. I hope at least that Star Wars lives on forever. It's too perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what's so great, and that's also why I like medieval stuff. I love like their use of archetype and like how it's the same story, but they do these interesting plays on it, and it's like I think that version of storytelling is just so neat. Yeah, people always like, I don't know, I feel like in cinema today it's like everything's got to be different and you got to find the new spin, but it's like, man, it was so cool back in the day when medieval storytellers were just telling the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and so I think there's something cool about that.
And it makes these like personal stories of like for example like someone's struggle with religion or something feel so epic as well, because it feels like it brings it to like a universal kind of level, right? Like the stakes are like pretty low, but they're so high. This is like the world to the characters, and I feel like a lot of like modern like blockbusters have this thing where like the audience is not really that involved because they have to make it or the world's blowing up and stuff, but like you don't really like ultimately care about that, right? And for example, I'll just go on a bit of a ramble, but like the Spider-Man movies, like the recent ones, have been like pretty disappointing to me, because in like the larger context of the MCU, like it's small, but the problem that I have with it is the filmmaking and everything. They're constantly reminding you how small it is. Like I think like this is like everything to the character. It's not like a joke if he like wins MJ over something, you know? Like it doesn't have that like authenticity to me. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that's the strength of something like the Sam Raimi movies you're talking about. Like the stakes are always so small. Like Green Goblin's gonna. His plan is so like, oh, he blows up a couple I mean, that's terrible, but at the same time, it's not like the Earth is gonna blow up if I don't stop Green Goblin. It's like that's almost secondary to all the issues of like Peter Parker's life, and that's I think is where it, like you care about Peter Parker so much more than anything else, and that's the stuff that carries the story, makes it feel so big. I think that's what you're getting at is the global Earth blowing up is like, oh, that's neat, but it's not like the point.
Yeah, like. I feel like a pretty like clear example of this is like Spider-Man 2. Like they do have like the whole city blowing up kind of situation, but I rewatched the films and I like forgot about that. Like I literally like in the climax, what you remember is, you know, MJ finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, and then Peter like talks to Doc Ock. Like it's.
Well,
I don't know. It's just beautiful.
It works best.
Masterpieces.
Those big blockbusters for me, they work best on when they work on a subtextual like mythological level, right? Like something like Star Wars or the Superman movies for me. It's, you know, yes, there's a surface level meaning to the images, but there's also a deeper subtextual level, right? So like take the end climax of like Revenge of the Sith. Like there's so much meaning going on in that fight, where you have Anakin and Obi-Wan literally in hell, down to their costumes. You know, you have Obi-Wan's white, Anakin's in black. You have the lava, it's like hell. You have that choir music, which is bringing everything up to this operatic level. And then you're cross-cutting that with Palpatine and Yoda in the Senate, fighting. On the surface level, it's just a fight. But at the same time, they're literally throwing the chairs of the Senate, destroying democracy, destroying it all.
Ultimate good and ultimate evil.
Ultimate good, ultimate evil. And then with Obi-Wan, it's not like, I mean, it is like a fight and everything, but it's like, it's a dance. It's the point isn't that like how realistic it is. One, they're Jedi. It's not supposed to be realistic. There's a lot of psychological stuff, but there's also
I think at like the Unmovied and Doom Productions gang, we like don't believe in realism.
no,
Like,
exactly.
I think that's like one of our things, right?
No, exactly. And it's like it is a dance and how they express themselves. And it's not like this aggressive, It's like really beautiful. And you have this moment where they almost kiss, right? And the lava explodes.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? And it's like there's all these subtextual imagery within the movie that you can dissect and interpret. And it's like, that's awesome. Like when a movie does that, when it's not literally about like, a fight, but there's a deeper level to everything in the images going on. That's what I really appreciate when blockbusters do that.
Yeah, and like they're brothers, so like it's even like, more like you've spent 2 movies building up their relationship, so like it's amazing. And dude, there's like these guys like George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, like they're like these guys, like if they were like people like look up to them and everything. And if you look at their interviews, they're literally talking about one day cinema is going to be an art form where like some like 5-year-old is going to make the next masterpiece. And we're at that point, and still people are like afraid to make a movie and stuff. And like those guys are so inspiring to me. Like I feel like, whatever we're doing, like George Lucas would be like hella proud,
Yeah. He started out making experimental films. That was his thing. He was an editor just like you.
Yeah.
He was all about editing. I think he's always said that's his favorite part of the process. And I think he's right now, I mean, I know he's doing other stuff. He's a rich dude and everything, but I'm pretty sure he's like making secret experimental movies just for him and his friends to enjoy. So I would love to like get a hand on like check out those and see what's going on there. And hopefully, give him one of our movies. Be like, hey, this is what we're doing over on the YouTubes. Check us out.
Come on over, George.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room.
Yeah. We promise we won't only ask about Star Wars questions, although
Okay, maybe a little bit.
we'll ask 2. Yeah.
First, tell us everything.
Yeah. Gee, we've covered so much. I don't know.
That went all over the place.
Where do we
That's
take this
great.
now? I guess bringing it back to you. Not Star Wars and Planet of the Apes.
Thank you. Finally.
Yeah.
Enough of you guys.
What is your, I mean, obviously I think for all of us, we all want to make movies for a living. What do you see that looking like for you? Do you see yourself working through the industry? Do you see yourself staying on YouTube? Do you want to try Hollywood or anything? Like where do you see yourself in the filmmaking sphere?
I think so. I want to like prove myself as a filmmaker through YouTube, and also make amazing stuff that gives audiences these experiences and everything. But probably eventually I will become like an industry person and like sell out a little, because there is a point where like some stories you want that like bigger budget, and like why not? If you can, then Yeah.
No, we feel the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like there's always that thing of like no opportunity. That's good. Like you should pass up Hollywood or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to get
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it like,
That money.
yeah.
Yeah.
There is also like a thing where I feel like once you become a part of the industry, like your whole life becomes movies, and that can be a bit dangerous. Where like, for example, like a lot of Quentin Tarantino's films are just like about other films, and I feel like they're not really about much else, really. Like stuff like that, where it's like a trap that I don't want to fall under, because as filmmakers we're watching so many movies and everything, but I want to make sure that my stories feel grounded to some kind of emotional, real, experiential kind of level.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a selfish question. What would it take?
The best types of questions.
What would it take? Is there a project
Oh, okay.
in the future in which you could see yourself flying out 2 people from America, specifically Portland, Oregon, to help out and collaborate with on a film? It could be in a year, could be in a few years.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Also, how big is your bed?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you guys have seen it, right?
Is it? Oh yeah, we can fit on that.
Oh yeah, we can all fit.
I mean, that's not what we were asking.
I'll
but
sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, like totally. I want to like I want to. Yeah, I'm gonna work with you guys for sure. We're gonna meet in real life.
All right,
like,
crossover
100%.
confirmed.
Yes.
You heard it here,
crossover.
folks.
Yeah, it's happening. Exclusive. But yeah, I'm definitely like gonna. I want to do this thing, like you know how Dan Lotz is doing his 12 movies in 12 like a year. Okay, first of all, I want to do that. Second of all, I want to do a thing where like I go to a country and I just have to make a movie in the country.
Yes.
Oh,
Like and a bunch of countries, right? And it Kurostami, Abbas Kurostami,
Yeah.
he did like a similar thing where he had like a few movies that were like French or like Japanese or something, and I watched those recently actually, and that's so cool, and I want to like do that for sure. And yeah, I'm a big fan of like giving yourself like strict limitations and making some kind of art out of that. So I definitely, and yeah, doom productions crossed with Unmovied productions happening.
Yes.
Heard it here first.
yeah.
Yes. That'd be sick.
I'm in.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, it'd probably be easier. Rather than both of us buy a plane ticket, we buy his plane ticket,
Yeah.
and he comes out to us. And it's
Yeah.
cheaper that way, I think.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have a talk after this.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
Sitting up. How far away is Australia from Portland?
It's like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's like just down the street.
You guys like ship me by boat?
If that's cheaper, then maybe.
Make a movie while you're on the boat.
Yeah.
Dude, that would be pretty awesome. Like that would be amazing. Yeah, like I want to like maybe like go on a cruise in a few years when this COVID thing is over, and just like force myself like to make a movie on a cruise, maybe with like a bunch of friends, like that stuff like that. Like I really love, and like you can make a movie about anything, you know, like as long as it's rooted in emotion and is interesting, and interesting things don't cost much, so you can make a movie.
I just had an idea of what that movie would be. It would be, so you have your intermission in it and everything. So it would be the first 2 hours of the movie is one continuous shot of you sunbathing on your front. Then intermission happens, and then you're gonna want to hear this. When it cuts back, you're laying on your front and you're sunbathing on your back now, and then that's the next 2 hours, and then the movie ends.
I'd watch it.
And then the last 5 minutes is the boat sinking Titanic style, and it's very chaotic. No one would see it coming.
Amazing.
You're welcome.
Dude, we have to cut this out of the interview. Like
You can
You
Venmo
can't
me
let this-
for payment for the
you can't
idea
let
after.
these. You can't. Can you cut it out of the interview though? Like I don't want it to like leak. You know.
You know what? That'll probably be best.
Yeah.
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 So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what we should
Absolutely.
talk about more, because I feel like
We covered so much.
we could talk about anything, I think.
We gotta save more for the next interview.
Yeah. What? Okay. So
Absolutely.
I was gonna say rapid fire questions, but I can't think of any rapid fire
Cody's
questions.
good at doing that. We're not.
I know we can't.
Tell us.
What are? Oh,
What were you gonna say? I think we might have been asking the same question.
well, I was gonna say, what have been your top movies of the year, 2021?
Not my question, but
Okay.
that's a great question. So answer that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let me check him out. Okay. So there was this film on Netflix called The White Tiger, which was like an Indian film, but it wasn't by an Indian director. That was really cool. There was Malcolm and Marie, which I just like. I love seeing like a director work in like a limited space, as I've said, and I thought that was really cool. Judas and the Black Messiah. There was a Billie Eilish documentary that I really liked. there was Last Day of Childhood that was pretty good. Justice League.
Perfect.
Video Carnage, of course.
All right,
I've
I'll
heard
send
that
you
one's
some
pretty
money
good.
later. Thanks for putting that in.
Yeah, and yeah, See You Soon. Like, yeah, See You Soon was really good as well. Like, I watched I don't know. Like, I expected to watch it and like be kind of distracted, like go on my phone or something. But like the whole time, I was just like eyes on the screen, just like relishing in the.
It doesn't live up
memories of
to
you guys.
Last Days of Childhood, but I was thinking about you as I was editing it. Like, man, I wish I was like, I want to see a Mridul. Just like, if I just sent him this footage, what would he send back? That, yeah.
I still haven't seen the movie.
He still hasn't seen it. On the poster, it says, "I haven't seen this movie" from Jordan, and
Yeah.
I hope at this point that you never watch it.
Yeah.
I think that would be really funny.
How about you guys? Best movies this year, not including Justice League, because we know.
Why
you
would
guys are
you
kind of a fan
Taken
of
away from us like that? How dare you? What are you, Warner Brothers?
All right, you gotta go to the letterbox.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot. Of
Sort
movies this year.
by-
It's been very embarrassing.
What can you do? Okay, let's see. Sort by newest
What have I watched
first.
this year?
Year. I can sort by year. Perfect. 2021. All right.
Wait, how do you do that?
Oh, I have not seen that many.
No, I haven't really either. It's been kind of embarrassing.
Oh wow, this is shocking.
Okay, I watched Burning this year, which was incredible. And if you liked Video Carnage, Burning is a really you'd like. Burning.
But that's not a 2021 release.
Well, no. Oh, is it 21 releases specifically?
Yeah.
Or just 2021 movies? Oh shoot. Well, I've done goofed. I watched Pig this last week,
Pig
and that
was
was
good.
really good. But I think I may have watched 5
I need to
movies to
watch
come out this year. Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead.
What else?
I'll give you guys another recommendation actually, because I
Okay.
forgot about it. There's this another Indian film called Eeb Ale Oo,
How do
which
you
is
spell
about
it?
this like, it's EEB space ALLAY
Okay,
space
I see it right here.
OOO. Yeah, so it's
97
about
minutes.
this like,
It's a nice.
yeah, it's about a guy who is hired to like make monkeys go away, like as a monkey repellent.
Perfect.
It's so interesting, bro. And like it's like about his kind of like toxic job. And the day I watched this, I was going through kind of a job situation where I kind of found out that my job was terrible. And I watched this on the day and it was so stressful. Like it was like I was like the whole time I was like so tense because I was literally going through a very similar thing to this main character. So that was an amazing experience actually. So
Nice. I think for me, for this year, if it's not Justice League, if I can't count Justice League, I really liked In the Heights and Raya and The Last Dragon. I like those 2 movies quite a bit.
okay, I haven't seen them yet, so
They're pretty good.
better check them out.
They're kind of basic picks, I know. You'd expect me to say like some Japanese movie made by like an 80-year-old director or something, but no, like two like pretty family-friendly movies. Pretty good.
Sometimes those are the best ones.
Yeah.
Something for the kids.
But would you guys ever make a musical?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
Yes.
There's a couple that I have in mind. And there's going to be, in my next movie, there's going to be 2 big musical sequences.
Are those animated sequences by any chance?
One of them is animated. The other is a little different.
I saw your Instagram post like on like 99 days till Halloween or something, and I was like, yes, another movie.
Well,
we know what this is.
That one's really stressful because I don't know if I'll be able to finish it in time. But I'm trying my best. I'm working my butt off.
that was more just in general.
Was that-
it is
did-
99
did
days
Ethan-
until
did
Halloween.
Ethan
Yes.
post that?
No promises attached. To it.
Yes, that was just like a hey Halloween.
I'm imagining like Ethan posting it to like make you
Oh,
do
just
work.
to do that to you.
It's 99
I
days.
should next time. Next time I'm just gonna post it. Just
Gives like
says,
gives
new
Jordan
movie on
like an
Halloween
exact-
coming out.
No, the main thing is the animation, which I'm pretty sure I can finish it by then. But if not, then it won't be done. And then there's a whole like we have to actually shoot the rest of the movie, and that's kind of a whole thing. But it is kind of easy because, I mean, the costume, like the characters are covered in their costume for the most part, so it's pretty easy. But We'll see. I would like so much for it to be out on Halloween, but if not, I guess it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 musical sequences coming in that for sure. Yeah.
Damn. Amazing.
Sure. Yes. I don't have any musical ideas, but yes, I would do it.
Yeah. I want to make one as well. And you know what I just realized? So Pretend That You Love Me is my favorite Joel Haver and folk film, and that has 2 parts as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has a musical sequence dividing them. So like it's just like I guess every movie that I love just has
Island.
2 parts.
Island does that too. It's like split in half.
Yeah.
You know, when pretend
Wow, am I just copying Joel Haver's thing?
Are we all
Is
just
that what I'm
ripping
doing?
off
I know.
Joel Haver?
No, when that moment happened in Pretend That You Love Me, I was like blown away. I was like, this is at another level
Yeah.
right here.
It was
As soon as that
amazing.
sequence happened, I was like, what? This is amazing. Yeah, I love it.
It that was beautiful. Yeah. I have a question. So do you like when you make a film, are your influences like clear to you, or are they like something you discover like afterwards?
Both.
Depending
For
on the
me, yeah,
project.
it
You go first.
Well, I know that like I start typically for a movie at a shot. Like I'll have something in my head and I'll extrapolate out from there and I'll build a story around like a moment or a shot or something like that. And sometimes like I'll attach that like, oh, this is just like something from insert other movie. But sometimes it'll just be its own thing and I'll look for things that'll inspire me. So for The Bell Rings, I know that idea started from its own. I mean, I had older versions of a movie and I kind of kept remolding them until now I have the movie that I'm actually making. But in that process, I'll seek stuff out that I feel like fits the vibe. Or sometimes like I'll point to Jordan, he'll be like, oh, you should check out this movie or that movie to get ideas for either for shots or for like mood or tone. But other times that's different. Sometimes I'll like not really have any movie in mind, and sometimes it just depends. Like yeah, like House was inspired by a book, so like there's no movie attached to it, but it was like a book that I took all the ideas from more or less, and then riffed from there. So
Yeah.
it just depends.
Yeah. For me, I know it's really project to project, but Oh Brother was like, it wasn't really inspired by anything, but other than like, what can I make right now, just really quickly. I think I watched Adaption. I rewatched Adaption right before, just because Nick Cage played 2 brothers in it. But there's nothing specific for October. That was more or less the holiday of Halloween that was inspiring that.
Kind of ourselves in a way. We kind of rip
Yeah.
stuff from our own projects for that.
Yeah, and then Video Carnage. We've talked about this where there wasn't really any influences, but like. I feel like our movies aren't really inspired by specific movies, but we as filmmakers are inspired by different films and stuff, right? So like we've kind of talked about that in the Video Carnage thing, where Nicholas Winding Refn, in terms of like our color, like was a huge on Video Carnage. We didn't think Nicholas Winding Refn when we were making Video Carnage. We thought we're just gonna light it how we usually light our stuff, which is really bright and colorful. But yeah, it's like. It depends on the movie, I think. Because with the Ghost one I'm doing now, that one's like... That one's had some more clear influences, which I don't want to say because it would spoil some things, but that one does have some more specific influences on that. But yeah.
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 Cool.
Yeah.
I'm like similar where I think I like discover it while I'm writing it, where I'm like writing it, I'm like, oh, what I'm writing reminds me of this thing. And then sometimes I'll make like a research list of like films I should probably watch, just in terms of like to see what I like about those films and like see what I don't like, the mistakes of those films, and kind of improve upon them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like making like an inspiration gallery for each of
Yeah.
my, like it's just satisfying to me.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
I wish I could do that for all my movies, but I always I never do. I love mood boards and stuff like that.
I'll do that for my photography. Like if I have like a specific like things I want to copy or try, but I almost never do it for movies.
Yeah.
But I would love to. I should do it for movies. Actually, I kind of did do it for Bell Rings a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I just downloaded photos or screenshots of things because it's set I mean, I think I've already kind of said it's set during the Great Depression, so I went through like historical like photography, and so I want to make my cinematography look like historical photos, at least the composition. So, yeah, just to give it that vibe. But yeah, it's just different for every project.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure that answers all the questions.
I know.
The answer is I don't know. Maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've been going for
An hour. And...
over an hour. Let's wrap this up, but in a fun way. How? I don't know.
Mridul, who's your favorite Dune Productions person?
There's one right answer.
And there's one left answer.
Honestly, the pumpkin.
Oh,
Perfect.
Pumpkin.
There you go.
Yeah, it has to be the pumpkin.
You heard it first, folks.
The pumpkin. Perfect.
What's funny is I stressed so hard over like, what does Pumpkin's voice sound like leading up to it, and then the end was just like, it was me.
Yeah, it was just
It
you.
was just me.
Yeah.
With like a slight inflection, though, just always go up. But other than that, it was just me.
Okay, let's end with this question actually. This is really broad, so take it as broad or specific as you want. What do movies mean to you?
Wow. Movies. What do they mean to me? Ooh, wow. You really like I. Let me think. I guess movies are ultimately like, you tell a story, or you just any piece of art. I guess it's like to give a viewer an experience, and from the experience they take away something like your perspective, the creator's perspective of how they see the world, and a good movie like becomes a part of you, where like that perspective is a new way that you like it like just adds on to like your brain, and it like expands your own perspective, you know? And the ultimate like goal is like just to increase empathy. And I guess I was going somewhere with this. Where was I going? Okay, so increase empathy, and also we connect over stories as well. So like you watch a movie, I watch a movie, we talk about it, and we build. It's like a discussion point. Imagine if like art didn't exist. Like what? Like every conversation would be just like be 10 times more boring. But so like that, yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. Like it's a communal thing, and it's also a personal thing where you're expanding your perspective of the world through an experience.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
That's actually really well said.
Beautiful.
I really like that.
Mridul, thank you so much for joining us today in Filmmaker Hangout. We'll have to have you back when you have your next movie made, or just to hang out too. That's cool too.
Yeah, you're always welcome back here.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead and where can people find you online on the internet?
Yeah. So you guys can. I'll look towards this camera. Yeah. Okay. So you guys can find me at Unmovied Productions, my YouTube account, where I post my feature films. The Last Day of Childhood is over there, and just YouTube videos, random fun YouTube videos. There'll probably be a lot of clickbait, all that stuff, but yeah.
Perfect.
Love it.
And watch all of the Doom Productions catalog, and I'll be happy anyways.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.